Hi, I'm Dawn.
I'm Ashley.
And this is Mel.
Welcome to the Work It, You Are Worth It podcast.
We are here to discuss awareness, growth, and healthy relationships.
Are you ready?
Good morning, everybody. Mel, Ashley, how are you guys?
Good morning. I am great. How are you?
I'm
I,
wonderful. Good morning. How's everybody doing, Dawn?
I'm doing great. A little odd for us today. We're actually recording on a Saturday, which we don't normally do. So that's just a little different for me. Not
I
a bad thing,
know.
just different.
My whole weekend has been a little bit different. Cameron spent the night with her brother and sister at her
Oh,
sister's house last night. So I have had a very quiet house by myself.
nah, that sometimes is really, really nice.
I had a tough week at work. I
Oh
don't
no.
normally have a bad week at work, but it wasn't a bad week. It was just a lot of challenges. And tonight, Rob's going out with the boys, and I am looking forward to just having the night to myself.
I can see you in the hot tub with candles and gemstones and just chilling.
Yes, exactly. You know, it's a new moon, so you know where I'll be in the backyard.
So Mel, what is it like? I mean, obviously Ashley said it, but for you, what does a new moon and a night of self-care look like with this?
It's very intentional. Um, it's a moon in Virgo, so
Can you
there's a lot of
ex
release happening in this moon.
can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because I'm sure, like myself, there are a bunch of listeners out there
Mhm.
that do not understand what you're saying.
Well, it's we are in Virgo. That's the astrological time of the year. It's Virgo season, and it's a new moon, and it's in Virgo. It's during Virgo.
So
That's all
what
that means.
what are the characteristics of a moon in Virgo?
Well, for this moon, it's about coming full circle. In August, we started to speak our truth, and in September, we are living our truth. And
Okay.
Beautiful.
it's, yeah,
All
So what
right.
do you do? Tell us what your night looks like.
what my night's gonna look like tonight. I'm probably gonna have a hearty meal. I am going to choose my incense with intention. I am going to connect with my spirit, and I'm going to surround myself with the elements of fire, water, uh, earth, and air. And I'm going to bring in those elements into my energy, and I'm going to connect and center myself and ground and release.
It sounds like spending some very intentional quality time listening to yourself and just connecting with yourself and your higher power.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep, that's what I
Ah,
heard too.
and that is what I'm going to do tonight. Yes.
Okay. So, right, you're doing this tonight. Do you ever find any like hurdles? Do you run into? Well, let me back up. Let's back up. I guess let's what do we mean by when we listen to ourselves?
Well, so right, and it's a good segue into this, right? Because that's what it's going to be. One of the things that I picture when Mel describes her evening is this person just sitting quietly, letting things come, just paying attention to what I feel and what I hear and what is within me and what is outside of me. For me, listening to myself, it just means that I truly and genuinely pay attention to my own thoughts, feelings, and that inner voice. You know what I mean? That me that is quiet that I don't always hear, that I don't always have time to listen to. I'm too busy. I got to do this. I got to do that. So every day I take time to sit with me. Just like I take time to talk to me, I need to take time to hear me and listen to me as well.
Mhm. Which with Ashley mentioning that, that is actually was our the last podcast topic was how we talk to ourselves. So this one would be how we listen to ourselves. But you noted inner voice, Ashley, and I want to ask you, you said it was you. Is that made up of you and your higher power, or is it just you?
Well, so that's an interesting question for me because there's a couple of inner voices in my world,
Hmm.
in my insides. There's a couple of inner voices. There's the inner child, there's the vulnerable, hear me, love me, see me, just be with me. There's that inner teenager or that defensive, angry inner voice that is, I say defensive and angry. She's not really defensive and angry. She's protective, right? She is going to come to my defense at all times. Then there is the higher power voice, right? The inner voice that it's I don't hear it in my own voice. I hear it, for me it is a higher power voice.
Hmm.
It is a different tone than my tone. It doesn't sound like me. Like my inner child, I know it's me. It's my inner child. It's the inner me that is being very vulnerable and needs protection and love. That inner teenager is me. I hear it, I know it. It's my voice, it's my tone, it's my attitude. That higher power voice is a different voice. For me it sounds different. I do still hear it. Um and it's also me because it's my ideals, my core beliefs, the things that I hold true to my heart. Does that make sense?
It does, it does. And I feel kind of, I think about it very much kind of how you do, right? There's a part of it, part of it is listening to me, that inner voice of myself, my inner higher power, which as well is not in my voice. For me, it's in a, um, almost a neutral voice. It's not like I don't I'm going to say it this way. It doesn't sound like a man. It doesn't sound like a woman. It doesn't sound not one of those. It just, I don't know, it's a very neutral sounding voice. I don't know.
Mine's an energy voice.
Yeah,
It's hard to describe because it's not like a male or a female human voice. It's like
right.
this. Yeah, it's very difficult to describe. It's like an all knowing, all powerful, like energetic voice. It's, I don't even know if I could call it a voice. It's almost like the words are just there.
Yeah, and for me, I know, like, I can feel it in the, like, it's in my core, like in my, like, that spot in between my, like, right above my ribs and like in the center. But it's not there. It's like it's so in deep. And that's where it's more of a feeling that kind of translates into words. I guess is, I don't know. It is a very hard thing to explain. And then there's very much that adolescent child me is that does come up and say whatever she's feeling in that moment or has been feeling, and that will come up. So then myself and my higher power, right? There's that working through it as a team, as a way I kind of look at it.
It's so interesting to hear this conversation because Mel and I were talking yesterday and we were discussing the differences between how we hear it, right? Like I was saying, it's just this awareness that comes into my mind. And Mel, what were you saying?
I was saying it's a feeling.
Right? It's interesting to hear the differences in how we all hear or feel or know what our higher power needs us to know, how we hear ourselves, how we listen to ourselves. I I don't have words or sights or audio. I just have this awareness of it being there. Where
Y-
Dawn and Mel, you were saying feelings.
Yeah, it's like an intuitive feeling in my
Hmm.
body. I really listen to my body and where it hits me. Since I
Same.
have an understanding, like I didn't understand that stuff. One of my hurdles was I didn't have knowledge of a lot of things about how, your body and your mind and all of that is so interconnected until I got really curious about it about, a couple of years back and realized that there is a correlation on how you listen to yourself and the way that it comes out in your body.
Yeah, awareness was definitely a big hurdle that I had. It was difficult to hear myself and listen to myself when I wasn't even aware of what I was thinking or feeling, right? Like that is probably for me the biggest hurdle that I faced in my life was having awareness of myself. How can I listen to myself if I don't know that I can have a relationship with myself? And one of the things that I have started doing since this podcast series, is pushing Cameron, my youngest child, to have an awareness of how to build a relationship with herself.
Hmm.
Right? How do you listen to yourself? How do you know what you want and what you feel and what you think, especially if you have never been aware of those things?
It's interesting you say that about Cam, because that is kind of for me has been very much the same thing with this, talking about awareness than the way we have. Um, I've been really doing the same thing with Colin. I think I shared with you, um, I don't know, we had an issue last weekend, and I noted I was really proud of myself the way I handled it. And what I did in that situation was I had a conversation with Colin. At what point did you go from feeling this to this? Like, I'm really trying to encourage him to understand, right? One, anger is not bad. Anger is okay as long as we understand, right, and reflect. And at what point, what happened that flipped that switch? Did I notice it before? Can I identify that transition of how it happens? Because I feel like that's how we get to know ourselves at such a deep level.
So I hear you saying, Dawn, that one of the ways that you're helping your son learn to listen to himself is by interrogating. I use air quotes when I
Yep,
say that because that was one of the things we talked about last week with communicating with ourselves, was interrogating ourselves, asking ourselves questions, getting to the bottom of what we think. And I feel like this is just the other side to that same coin, right? If I'm going to ask myself these questions, I have to listen for the answer. I
right.
have to be willing to truly say, not just, yes, I got angry. You pissed me off. No, but where, how, when,
Right.
why? Ask myself those five whys and be willing to hear my honest, heartfelt answer to why I got angry, why I got sad, why I whatever.
Hmm. And it's interesting because Cam is young, and Colin, right, is this is new for him as well. And so I don't expect them. Like, I didn't know the five whys. I didn't understand the five whys in the beginning, right? And so now what I'm doing is asking him those whys so he can learn to use those whys and understand that. And um right, again, it's about there. It might not be, he might not get it there, get it perfect, right? But this isn't about perfection. But it's just about understanding ourselves. And another way, Mel, what you kind of alluded to, well, you didn't, you said it, right, is knowing your body. And I think what's really important too with how I ways to know my to listen to myself is being able to do a body scan. Right, that was something early on I learned from a therapist was, right, start to your head, scan your body to your toes. When you're feeling a certain way, identify where you're feeling it, and then you can, right, that's how you can understand. That's how I can know a lot of times before I get to that point, I understand that I'm headed to that point by the feeling in my body.
One of the other hurdles that I found too, was I ignored my own voice half the time. I could have been talking logic to myself, but depending on what situation I was in, Maybe I wasn't even listening to myself.
So
Yeah, I definitely ignored myself a lot. There would be that quiet voice that I even remember having conversations with my best friend. That was definitely a hurdle for sure for me was ignoring myself because I remember having conversations with my friend where she would be like, Ash, you've told me that this isn't the right thing for you. Why are you still doing it? And I would say something like, well, because maybe if I just work a little harder, or maybe if I just change this or I do that, I would completely ignore what my inner self was saying and I would do something else. Or on the other side of it, instead of ignoring it, I would just be in denial about it, right? That was another big hurdle. I knew it was there, I heard it, but I denied it. I wasn't ready to face the truth. So I just completely denied it and talked myself out of it.
Yeah, or you just don't trust your own voice, you know?
Yeah, that was another hurdle, also trusting myself.
Yeah.
I think for me, I didn't even know I had a voice,
Yeah, that awareness. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for
right?
sure. Right. Being aware that it's there.
Right? Is
Just
it, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that it's just about being so disconnected from your own self that you don't even realize that, yeah, you even have a voice. You're right. It's
So how do you listen to something you don't even know that's allowed to be a thing?
yeah.
Yeah, I remember that was huge. And I go back to this just because it's brought so much awareness to me as a parent. I remember being a child and my mom or my dad, my mom or my stepdad would really say something that just hurt my feelings, right? And in their minds, they were joking or they were just playing. But some of the stuff have it sat with me. And I've talked about this one on the podcast before. I was in sixth grade and we had to hurry to get to the my dad's truck. So because if we took too long, they would yell at us. We would get in trouble. So we had to hurry. So I was in sixth grade middle school. I had a backpack, 20, 30 pound backpack full of books, and I would run to try to get to the truck so I wouldn't get in trouble for being late. And they would tease me. My stepfather, my mother, and my brother ended up getting involved in it too. That I excuse my language here. I don't even like the word. It triggers me to say the word, but I'm going to say it anyways because I need to move past it. It's just a word. But they would tease me and say that I ran like a faggot. I don't even know what that means. I was in sixth grade running with a backpack on, right? But because of that, I don't run anymore. And they would say, oh, you're being overly sensitive. You're taking it so personal. It's not a big deal. We're just joking. God, you take everything so personal. And because of that, I learned don't listen to myself. I'm wrong. What I'm saying is not accurate. All because my parents were unable to hear that what they were saying was wrong and hurtful and it hurt, right? They got defensive, so they had to turn it around on me.
Hmm.
And I took that to heart and I learned that I can't listen to myself because I'm wrong. I take
Right.
things too personally. I'm too worried about what other people think.
Yeah. Um, Another hurdle too could also be like I've found I'm not listening to myself or I have a very distorted sense of myself when, some of my mental health issues are acting up, like I'm not taking care of myself properly and I'm not doing my daily practices and I'm not maybe I've been distracting myself with television or screen time or other things instead of working on myself. I'm not taking the time to listen to myself.
I
So,
hear self care. I hear you saying that if I don't do my self care, it
yeah.
becomes more difficult to listen to myself. It is a hurdle of listening to myself if I don't do my self care.
Yeah.
And that's interesting to me because it kind of goes along with what I was saying in the last podcast, right? If I don't communicate with myself, if I don't listen to myself, not so much if I don't, when I do, it opens up the space, which allows me to handle the things that are coming at me in a much better manner, in a manner that I am more proud of. It's less overwhelming. But if I
Yeah.
don't listen to myself, if I don't do that self-care, right, that's a huge hurdle. If I don't do self-care, then I can't hear myself. I don't have space for the rest of the things in my life.
Yeah.
Um, Mel, one of the things you said about like just distractions and like getting on social media, doing things that really is avoiding listening to myself because I think sometimes I just don't, right? If there's a lot going on, if I'm not feeling my healthiest self, my best, like my best self, I will I will do everything I can to distract myself. And whether that is social media, that is TV, that is cleaning my house, which, right, I'm saying, not saying is like all of those things are not important and there's isn't a time and place for them. But if I'm using all of other things outside of myself to avoid sitting down in that place of being able to listen to myself, that can, and it's really just about making space for me in my own life.
Hmm.
Um, and it's using fun, I think, right, it doesn't have to be so, oh, I mean, for me, I do have times, but it doesn't have to be such a hard, fast thing because if I really want to do this, I find the space to do it. Um, I can do it in the shower. I can do it I go to the restroom. Right, there are things that I do. I'll share a story. Someone I knew actually, she was she used a daily meditation book, and she actually where she kept it was by her toilet. She's like, because every day, guaranteed, I go to the restroom many times a day. So if I don't, maybe I don't have time outside of that, but in that moment, I can take the 2, 3 minutes because what else am I going to do that I can read my daily meditation? And I know that sounds so like, like some people be like, ew, gross, blah, blah, blah. But when you are in a journey to find growth and awareness, you're going to do it any way you possibly can.
Yeah, I
There's
think
nothing too gross. There's nothing too weird. There's nothing bad.
I think it's important to minimize those distractions, to be intentional, right? That's a huge word that has been consistent in this series of podcasts that we're doing is being intentional. I need to intentionally listen to myself. And for me, that means that I need to turn off the TV. I need to put the phone down. I need to I personally light incense and scented candles and do essential oils. And I am very intentional about minimizing the distractions around me because, right, that's another huge hurdle to listening to myself is distractions. If I am having the TV playing while I'm trying to listen to myself, then half of me is listening to the TV. And that other thing that came out of what you were saying, Dawn, for me, the other thing that I heard is I treat my relationship with with myself the same way I treat the relationship with my best friend. I am intentionally acting as though I am my own best friend. If I get upset, I stop and listen to myself. If I get frustrated, I allow myself to vent and I'm compassionate with myself and I'm understanding with myself. And I don't share my own gossips and my own vents with the whole world because I keep secrets for myself. They're not really secrets though, because it's not hurting anybody. It's just me talking to me about the things that I care. You know what I mean? It's not, so I'm not gossiping, but I'm still allowing myself to get that gossip out because I'm having that relationship with myself. And it has to be intentional. I have to have it be intentional.
I feel like I know I am listening to myself. Um, because of the way I will express myself to others too. It shows. If I've been deeply listening to myself, I have a frame of thought. I know what I want to say. I speak with more purpose. And I feel that when I am living in my own truth and, it, and I'm voicing that, I'm in a more peaceful and happier place.
Yeah, for sure. I cannot reiterate enough that one of the major benefits of listening to myself is it frees up space for the things that life does, right? Like life brings bullshit. It's just gonna happen. Shit happens, milk spills, you forget to buy the bread. I like those analogies are well-known analogies because it happens. Life happens. And if I have built this relationship with myself, if I have listened to myself, I have opened up space within me to be able to handle the shit that life throws at me.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Yeah.
don't listen to myself, if I am in, right, if I sit in those hurdles, in denial and ignoring myself and distracting myself and refusing to have awareness, if I sit in those hurdles, then I don't have space and I don't have room for the shit that life throws at me. And a little tiny thing like the tire on my car blowing ends up becoming this life changing ordeal where I'm flipping out and screaming and yelling, and the cops are showing up, and now there's tow trucks, and maybe I'm mad at my kid, or I don't even know. It ends up becoming this huge ordeal when if I had just spoken to myself and listened to myself and communicated with myself for a week beforehand, then the tire blowing out on my car would simply be calling AAA and getting a new tire, and it's not a big deal because I would have the space to deal with it.
I feel too, I also needed to kind of change my limiting beliefs to be able to. I had a mother wound, and I mean, call me crazy, but I truly believe I also had bilateral breast cancer at a very early age in my life. And I firmly believe that my body kept those wounds. I was holding on to so many limiting things about my childhood and I wasn't able to let go that I feel that my body kept that. And I got breast cancer at
When you
48.
when you stuff it, you
Mm-hmm.
stuff it, right? You stuff
Yeah.
it inside of yourself and it has to go somewhere. What stress actually releases hormones into your body, and if you don't allow those emotions out, if I don't allow those emotions out, I hold them within me, then they release those hormones longer, and those hormones interact with my body in a way that creates sickness. I don't know for a fact, but I would like to say it's actually proven that when we hold in our emotions and we hold in our stress and we don't allow it to come out, we do get sick. There
Yeah.
are physical symptoms to emotional issues.
There's a great book on that by Besser van der Kolk, and he wrote The Body Keeps the Score. Oh, it is like a plethora of information about that, about holding in emotions and
Um,
how it comes out. There's a correlation between that and fibromyalgia.
yeah. Um, I think when we're talking about there's okay. So in one of the books I read is right, it's said in there, and it was really interesting to me the first time I read it. I remember reading it, and my internet is a very unstable, guys, so I apologize. I will do my best. Um, but it said in the book that, and it was a book about codependency, and it said in there, codependency will kill me. It can kill me. Just like any other addiction can kill me, right? So we obviously think about alcohol, drugs, those kinds of things, right? Physically harming our body. And codependency and stress and those kinds of things can do the same thing, right? I am a three-time cancer survivor. I've had cancer in three different parts. Most everybody we've talked about this on the podcast before know this, and it is I do 100% believe it was because of the stress that I carried with me because I will say since I have found my own awareness in life and I've built this relationship with myself, I I have not had any scares, any additional issues. And I actually say this, I actually have a fourth spot on my pancreas that was actively being watched when all of the other stuff was going on. And since I found my awareness, that has not grown. And I think it is because I don't carry that stress. I don't carry it so inside of me. I now know how to let it go. I know how to expel it out of my body. Um, and I was actually looking up if it has been proven. Um, but according to American Institute of Stress, they are saying that it is. I haven't read the article, but I am curious about that now that Ashley, that you mentioned it. So,
And I just want to throw a little disclaimer out there. We are not, any one of us, by any means saying if you have illness, sickness, disease, it is
right,
because you didn't do this. That is not what we are saying. What we are saying is when we don't process our emotions, when we allow ourselves to sit in ignorance, I don't, ignorance is simply a lack of education, a lack of knowledge, a lack of awareness. I don't mean that in any negative term. But when we allow ourselves to not be aware, to not process our emotions, to not heal and grow, there can be physical symptoms. We are not saying if you are sick, it's because you didn't process your
right,
emotions. That is not at all what we're saying. And do some research on it, right? Look into it, see
right.
what you believe. In our experience, what I have learned in my research and in my growth and in my awareness is when I don't process these things, it stays within me and I become sick.
Yeah. It's one of the things to think about too is our bodies were naturally built to have that instinct to protect ourselves, whether it's from an external source. Well, if it's an external source, clearly you think of a predator, right? We're gonna defend ourselves from that. But why would our bodies not work the same way, even if it's an internal predator?
Right, I can talk myself into being having an adrenaline reaction, right? If
Right.
think about the last time you had to go outside in the middle of the night and there were woods around you. I know I can talk myself into feeling like somebody's watching me and I'm terrified and I'm afraid and now my heart's pounding and my hands are shaking and there's nothing happening except that I'm talking myself into it.
So you said something, and it made me think about this. Isn't another hurdle to listening to myself fear?
Oh, absolutely. Fear is definitely another hurdle to listening to myself. A- And I think that kind of goes along with the denial and the ignoring, right? The
Mm-hmm.
reasons I go to denial, the reasons I go to ignoring is because I am afraid of what I have to say.
Right.
I know for me, I knew for 10 years that I had to take this action, and this action was it was my truth. I knew inside myself, but I didn't want to hear that. I was afraid of taking that action and what that action would mean. I was afraid of the other side of that action, what would lay on the other side in the future. I, so I sat in ignoring and denial. Right? Ignorance is bliss. And sometimes we are ignorant intentionally. A total lack of awareness because I am afraid of what that awareness will bring. I, I knew, I told people, I knew for 10 years that my only truth was that I would take that action. And for 10 years, I did everything in my power not to do it, to avoid it, to make it not happen. I just refused to listen to myself. And hell, there's days today that I listen to myself and I say, no, I don't want to hear that. Stop saying it. I'm still in denial and ignoring. It's much smaller and it's much littler things, but sometimes I'm just afraid of what I have to say and what's on the other side of knowing my truth.
What I hear you saying is I'm afraid to hear what I have to say, meaning, right, what if I have to, what if what I need to hear is harsh? What if I need to hear something that I don't like, right? It's the flip side of I don't want to hear what I have to say. And right, we were talking earlier about the three parts. There's multiple parts of us in there, right? That I have to listen to. And what if I don't like one of those parts, what I'm gonna hear? Um, Whether that's my little self, right? That has to be honest, that what she's feeling, or what my higher power needs me to hear in that moment. I think that can be very scary too. Um, and so would kind of um, avoid that as well.
I think that sometimes when it comes down to hearing yourself, and Ashley, I think alluded, like said this also, it sometimes forces an action that, you know, you need to make it, but it's a hard action to take. And I think that when we're meant to start listening to ourselves, it'll happen because I think the voice will just sometimes, like I know for myself, my voice just got so loud, I couldn't
Yes.
ignore myself anymore.
Yes,
Mhm.
Mel. That is and I say that in my eyes, that's my higher power, my universe, my and myself. Um, if I ignore it, the signs will get more and more clear, and it
Yeah.
will become louder and louder and louder. Like I'm trying to think of an example that's not so right. Is it's like my check engine in my car, right? The maintenance light. I got to get the oil changed. My God, I've had to change my oil for a month and I keep ignoring it. And I have not changed my oil. And at first, the maintenance light would just blink on when I first started the car. And then it started blinking and blinking and blinking. And I'm like, okay, stop blinking. And now it's at the point where the maintenance light blinks and stays on. And if I continue to ignore it, eventually the check engine light's going to come on.
Hmm.
And then eventually the engine's going to start making this banging noise. And then eventually it's going to stop working, right? It's going to get louder. Those signs that tell us that something needs to be done, something needs to change, I can ignore that maintenance light all day long. And it is just going to continue to blink louder and louder and louder until eventually I can't possibly ignore it anymore because now the engine's dead and it doesn't work. And now I must do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
It's
think it's Go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say it's the same thing in life.
Yeah. And that's actually what I was going to say is I think that's the thing, because for those that don't know my story, right? I what started my domino effect of my three cancer issues was I was getting kidney stones. That's it. I kept mass producing kidney stones, and I went to the doctor to go to a urologist, and I'm like, oh no, a doctor told me I did I mass produced them a long, long time ago. He's like, no, that's not no. And I want you to go see an endocrinologist. And that's where it started, right? And I can tell you I waited from the first time I went to a urologist about my kidney stones, it was 20 years. 20 years of dealing with this from the first time I had an issue and I heard something about it and was told, oh, your kidney shape, you're going to mass produce kidney stones, right? Bad doctor, bad doctor. And I had these issues and I had these issues and right? I did check it out, but I went with, well, I was told that I'm going to. It's okay. But so I continued, right? Even though that's what I was told, chose to ignore that inner voice in myself to continue to check it, continue to investigate what was going on, why this was happening. And once I was like, okay, I got to do something, right
It got
there.
so bad that you couldn't possibly ignore it anymore.
Exactly, right? Okay, so now, well, hey, let's take out part of your parathyroid because that's what's causing, you've got a tumor on there. And it wasn't even like that wasn't even one of the issues, right? It was, hey, you're overproducing calcium, which makes kidney stones. Okay, interesting. But while you're in there, I'm tired of having all my thyroid issues. Can we just take that out? I'm on meds anyways, might as well. Boom, get the pathology back. There's cancer in my thyroid. I would have never known, right? And that led into, oh, now I'm going to Moffitt to a cancer center to see this. Oh, let's do a total body scan. Hey, you've got this, right? Oh, you have this. Like when I started following through and taking care of myself and
Listening to your body.
yeah, then it started speaking to me.
When I started listening, then it started speaking. I like that, Dawn, and I don't even know if you meant to do that. It's
No.
it's huge, right? Like when I became that another hurdle and another benefit.
Hmm.
When I became willing to listen, my inner self, my body, my higher power, it all became willing to speak.
Yeah.
That's so
Right. There's a
profound.
hurdle.
Yeah.
There's a hurdle, myself, and probably should be at the top of the list.
And
Well, yeah, like I think observing yourself, you know, which is just a part of awareness. And I mean, I know Dawn, you really love, like you like to observe your words. Like that's something that I've come to know about you, that words are so important, you know? Um, and now since knowing you, I've realized I observe my words now more. So I think, one of the benefits of listening to yourself is that you do tend to listen to other people more.
yeah, absolutely. One of the
Yeah.
benefits for sure. And when I listen to myself, another benefit of listening to myself is that I change, right? I grow, I learn, I do things in a way. I don't want to say a better way. I want to say I do things in a way that I am more proud of, that I appreciate, that I like, that I don't wish I had done differently.
So some of the hurdles and benefits we've talked about, right? What are we've talked about hurdles and benefits and stuff, but what are ways, and we talked about this with Mel in the beginning, like what are ways that I can listen to myself? Like how do I listen to myself? What does that look like?
When I first started learning to build a relationship with myself and learning to listen to myself, the only way I could listen to myself, and this is kind of the only way I could listen to myself was I started out doing this thing where 3 times a week I would write a letter to a stranger and I would read that letter. The letter to the stranger was just things that I needed to say to myself, but I couldn't hear myself saying them to myself. So when I wrote them to a stranger, and in my mind, the way I had to do this is I told myself this great story. I had this whole elaborate how I was going to help other people, right? Because that's who I was. I was somebody that wanted to help other people. So the way that I was going to help other people was I was going to 3 times a week write a letter to a stranger and put it in a random location, and the random person who was meant to find it would find it. So I would sit down at the table and I would just start writing. And then I would wait an hour and I would go back and I would read that letter. That was the very first way I learned to listen to myself. And I couldn't do it in my mind to where I was listening to myself. I had to make this elaborate story up where I was doing this for someone else to help someone else. And then I could hear what I had to say.
Mm. So I love that. I love for twofold. I love trust, like writing the letter, trusting that the person that needs to get that letter is going to get that letter. That is that is for me the epitome of what I live in my recovery as what I'm going to get out of it is whatever I meant to get out of it without controlling it and all of that. So I love that. Number two, what I love about the writing a letter to myself or writing a letter to others early in recovery and then is revisiting those letters, right? Maybe I write a letter today. I have a letter and I don't know where it's at right this minute, but I can guarantee you when I need this letter, I will find it. It'll just magically move drawers or, whatever. Um, but I have this letter that I wrote pre recovery. It was right after my last my the rel- my the first time my relationship with the person that brought me to recovery, Coda. Um, and that's a whole nother story. I will elaborate on that. I've done that on TikTok. Go to TikTok. Go watch that video on TikTok. Anyways, but I have this letter that I wrote to him, and it's interesting because I do find it at occasions, and I found it um probably the third time oh, let's get back together. And it was the last time that we got back together because I found that letter just at that right moment and I could hear it differently. And what was interesting, what I needed to see in that was I was still having the exact same thoughts and feelings that I was having a year and a half earlier. And it's when I found that in at other times, whether it's been in it's been in a relationship or something is going on, right? It doesn't matter. And it pops up and I'm feeling the exact same ways that I wrote in that letter, right? That's really powerful to see whether it's a similarities or whether it's, oh my God, how much have I changed? How much have I grown? And the power that feeds my soul when I can see the level of change that I've made, or I can see the places maybe that I haven't grown and changed that open up for another place and thing for me to work on.
Yeah, mine also related between situations, right? I would write letters about my ex, or I would write letters about my
Hmm.
ex-husband, or I write letters about my children, or letters about my mom, or letters about my dad. And I noticed that those same characteristics, those
Yeah,
same things were in each letter, and it created that awareness pattern also.
yeah, yeah. I love that. So what other ways? What other ways can we, besides writing, just journaling, writing? Um, Mel, you're gonna do some what meditation type things tonight?
Yeah, I'll probably do some meditation things tonight. I'll probably do some somatic movement, that's a
What
little
is
bit of
somatic
flow.
movement?
Well, somatic movement for me is it's I get connected with music and then I'll move my body with intention. If you could see me right now, I'm moving my body. I move my body with intention and flow, and I just with the intent to just release emotion and stuff that's been stuck. Like I said, I had a tough work week, so there's going to be some things I'm going to want to just get out of myself before Monday because I want to show up on Monday with, I did a lot of cleanup this week. So showing up on Monday with best possible intentions, as Ashley would say, um, that will help with that because it's not letting me hold on to anything. you know. What else will I probably do?
I hear intentional. I just hear
It's
that
so
word again.
intentional. It's just really intentional. I
Having,
know, I'm starting to know myself and I know what I need and I listen to what I need.
that's it. Having
Yeah.
awareness of what I need and hearing and listening to what I need, and then intentionally creating what I need.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
One of the ways I listen to myself is I do pyrography, wood burning. So I will take a piece of wood, a little piece, a big piece, it doesn't matter. I'll sand it down and then I'll trace a picture onto it. And I grab a wood burning tool and I just sit for hours burning the wood. The smell releases and the smoke and the design of the burn and then the heat. And it's just taking that time intentionally to be one on one with myself. And maybe I'm not actually hearing thoughts. Maybe I'm just sitting with myself, enjoying
mm,
myself, doing something that makes me happy for me. Right. I have a friend of mine, and for him, his thing is working on cars. He will go out with his buffer and his grinder, and he will work on the body of a car for hours. And that's just him listening to himself. He's just spending one on one quality time with myself, hearing, listening, doing, being me with me.
Yeah.
so
It's creativity too. The creativity um of when you listen to yourself and figure out what it is that makes you tick. And then you just kind of start to gravitate towards those things.
and could it be more than just like more than one thing? Like, does it have to always be woodworking or wood
No.
burning,
No,
Ash?
it has
Right.
to be more than one thing. It has to be different things because if I only did one thing, I would get bored. I would get
Hmm.
irritable. I would get sick of it. You know what I mean? It becomes a habit instead of an intentionality.
Does it become for this 6 weeks, I'm going to do wood burning, and the next 6 weeks, I'm going to do, right? What is,
No, it's whatever feels right in the moment. I can go,
yes.
like, maybe I would burn for 4 days in a row, and then I don't would burn for 6 weeks.
Yep.
Right? Maybe today what feels right is going and sitting outside by the fire, and I just sit by the fire and I listen to
Hmm.
myself. Maybe tomorrow I just read my tarot cards. I light some candles and I sit on the floor in my bedroom and I read my tarot cards. And that's listening to myself.
Right.
It's always different based on me and how I feel. If I if I listen to myself and how I feel, then I will do what I need in that moment is the best thing for listening to myself.
And I
And
think that is a huge point to note in the beginning, right? Because some of the stuff we're talking about, you're talking about at the, after you've been doing this for a while. But in the beginning, right, the question would be, what do you like to do? And I don't, right? I didn't know.
What
And
do
so
I
what I had
feel
to
like
do,
doing right now?
right? I don't know. Right? So it became, all right, let me try this. Right? Maybe I liked it, maybe I didn't, but it was actually trying to step out into things to figure out what was something that I could find a release in and find the ability to listen and enjoy um and I think that's something that a lot of people I think in the beginning don't know where to start. Well, you have to pick something, right? You just pick something and you see if you enjoy it and if you don't enjoy it, and then let that manifest into you get to this place that I know wood burning. I mean, there are days that cleaning is my thing. There's also days that, you know what, I want to do some skin treatments and take an extra long shower. There are days that I want to go sit in the grass with the dog and put my feet on the ground. There's days that I want to go for a walk. There's days that I want to go kayaking. There's right. It's it's finding those things that I can put into place to be able to listen to myself.
I feel too that um, it's about, for myself, like hearing myself and um asking myself, do you hear yourself right now, Mel? Like, really? Can you hear yourself right now? You
That's
know?
big.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Like
And sometimes
genuinely
I could be
asking.
in the middle of saying something and I'll be like, Mel, do you hear yourself right now? Like, just knock this shit off, please.
Like genuinely asking myself, like, Ash, do you hear yourself?
Yourself right now? Yeah.
There's been times that I've been in the middle of a sentence and just stopped and been like, oh, I just realized what I was saying. I didn't
Yeah.
mean it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I do that a
I
lot.
love that. I love that because to me, I think that's Mel, you noted how like the whole intentional, for me, words are very intentional. And I think
Hmm.
that's the biggest thing for me is and how it happened is right. I started fucking listening to the words that come out of my mouth. It's all I did. Every single word that comes out of my mouth, I hear it for myself. And right there are times I will stumble over my words. I will blah, 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 blah. I will correct myself, right? That's because I can hear myself and I can step back and I can correct. And I know how important words are. And if you don't start anywhere else, just start, right? It's just listening to the words coming out of your mouth.
Hmm. Um,
So go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was gonna say I can't. I'm trying to think of other ways.
Well, I was going to say we've talked about hurdles, we talked about ways, we've also talked about some benefits. What else? What else is there that we need to consider when we listen to ourselves?
Other people too. I think
What do you?
I think that considering um I think if you're having consideration for yourself, you're automatically having consideration for other people.
Ah, that one's a hard one for me, Mel.
Yeah?
I know a lot of people that there's a very thin line between self-centered and and selfish and self first. That's what I was going to say.
Mm,
There's a very thin line between selfish and self first. So when I'm considering myself and I'm being selfish, I don't consider other people, right? I'm
right.
just being selfish and self-centered and nobody
Hmm.
else matters. And when I am being self first, I consider myself and my wants and my needs, but I also consider other people and how they are and what they need and how they feel. And it's important to be self first and not selfish, but selfish people aren't always like just because I consider myself first doesn't always mean I consider other people. And I think that the reason that I stick on that so hard is because I think that is a big thing in awareness and growth that at first I didn't realize. For
Yeah.
for me, that was something that I did at the beginning is I went from being everybody else first and completely selfless.
Hmm.
And I turned into this person that only considered myself and my wants and my needs. And that lasted about, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks till all of a sudden I was like, oh,
Yep.
wait, I can consider other people while still putting myself first.
Hmm.
And I have to be able to listen to myself in order to be able to do that, right? That's a huge benefit of listening to myself is eventually I get to a point where if I listen to myself, I'm able to consider other people and think about other people and what they need and what is good for them and still do what is right and best for me without hurting them, right? There's usually a fine line and a thin path that you can walk that allows me to put myself first while still being kind and compassionate and loving to other people.
Yeah.
Is there ever a time you can be selfish?
What do you mean by be selfish? Just
right?
describe what you
So
mean.
so you were saying that there's a difference between being selfish and self first. So I guess my question would be, is it okay at times to be both, to do both?
I think they are opposite ends of the spectrum. I don't think you can be self first and selfish at the same time. I mean, you can at the
No.
same time, but you're not considering others when you're being selfish. So I think they're different. And
Yes.
do I think that the question I hear you asking, or that I think you want me to answer, is there a time where being selfish is appropriate? Is there a time where
Correct.
I don't care what other people think? And the answer for me is it depends on how important the thing is in my heart, right? Like,
Okay.
so if there's something that, how do
I
um,
have I have one. So
go, please go.
all right, recovery. I'm going to use so 12-step programs, right? When we are in 12-step programs, though are those and they say are selfish programs. Because in that moment, whenever I interact, whenever I go to a meeting, whenever I'm doing the work, and I'm also going to say right, finding my awareness and my growth, that is an acceptable time for me to be selfish. And when I say that, what I mean is on Thursday nights, I have meetings, and that is my time. And I'm not going to consider anyone else because those are mine,
But
and
you
I'm going to
would in
show
that
up.
moment, and if there was somebody else that needed you more than the meeting. Let's say your mom was in the hospital, going by ambulance to the hospital,
That's
and
different, right?
right in that moment you would consider her. So that's not being selfish, that's being self first. Right? That's my distinction. That's where I run into a really hard it becomes difficult for me to say because when I'm being selfish, I do not consider anyone else at all. I am being only what I want and what I need. And is it appropriate to be selfish sometimes? Yeah, right. If I'm having a baby, I'm not going to consider any other person in the world at all whatsoever, except for
Hmm.
me and my child in that moment. What do I need? And before that baby comes out, right? Like that's whatever I need is what the baby needs. Now, that gets into some gray area playing devil's advocate, right? What if the baby's not born yet? And if the baby's born, the mother will die. And if the mother died, right, the mother doesn't, I don't know. right? I haven't gotten so into that.
I
That's
think that selfishness, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt,
no,
but
you're good,
I
please.
think that selfishness, it is, it's hard to see in yourself, but you can sure see it in other people. That's my view on it.
So, yes, I agree with that, Mel. I think, Dawn, back to your question, I think that if I am being self first and one of my characteristics is I want to be kind to others, then I won't be selfish because selfish is not kind.
Back to the analogy of being pregnant. Like if you're pregnant, but you want to party and drink and be pregnant at the same time, isn't that kind of selfish?
That absolutely is selfish. That's
Yes,
definitely not
exactly.
self
Right. But is that
first.
Yeah,
but is
that's
that
not self
okay?
first. No, it's not okay.
I,
I don't
well,
think
I mean,
so,
it's
but
there's
that's my own opinion.
I,
I think,
Yeah,
like I
no.
my
said,
I'm
it's,
not one to say what is or is not okay for someone else. Would that be okay
yeah,
for me? No, absolutely
no.
not. Because I don't want to be selfish. And that is a selfish. I am only acting with what I want in this moment. I am not considering anyone or anything. However, if I'm a mother and I'm pregnant and the doctor says, if you birth this baby, you will die. Do I do self first or do I don't have an answer to that, right? So is there a situation in which selfish and self first can be the same thing? Maybe, I don't know. That's a huge question. And I go into really big
Scenarios.
Yes.
That
Right?
was
Like
a
these
big
big,
scenario.
profound things. That's a huge, profound question, though. And I think in order to ask a profound question like that, we have to consider such a profound situation.
Right.
Hmm.
And
And right, no right or wrong like there is no
exactly.
right, there is no right or wrong in my question, right? I'm not looking for this is right, this is wrong, right? It's just I think that's one of those things when we talk to ourselves, when we listen to ourselves, we have to ask ourselves those such
Yes.
profound questions and consider them and evaluate them. And
Feel that those deep, deep, profound questions are um, where listening to the answer really does come in.
It really helps me be aware of myself and it helps me know
uh-huh,
myself.
yeah,
And asking myself those questions and being aware of myself and knowing myself allows me to be confident in myself
yes.
also because I
And that's a
know
huge
where I
benefit.
stand.
Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
big benefit, is the
Huge
confidence.
benefit.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
And it quiets the inner critic. It really does. When you start to like when I start to build confidence in what I have to say and what I'm doing or whatnot, it's because I have been listening to myself and I know myself. And the outside external voices and that the inner critic loves to listen to so much, it's almost like I put noise canceling earphones on the inner critic and they just don't hear it anymore as much, you know?
Oh,
Maybe
another
some stuff gets through.
another benefit of listening to myself is that it allows me to be able to listen to others.
Yes.
Right? When I learn to listen to myself, it teaches me how to listen to what other people are actually saying, also.
And also gives discernment because sometimes what other people are saying, you don't need to listen to it. You know what I
It,
mean?
yeah, sometimes what I'm saying, I don't need to listen to. It, discernment's a
Right?
huge benefit. Like there's days
Yeah.
that I'm being crazy emotional and I'm all over the place. And if I don't know how to listen to myself, then I don't have the ability to say, wow, Ash, you woke
Do
up
you,
on the wrong side of the bed this morning, didn't you?
Yeah.
or do you hear yourself right now?
Right.
Yeah.
Discernment's a huge benefit of this.
Yes.
Well, guys, we talked really talked about how to listen to yourself today, the hurdles, the benefits, the ways to do that. Thank you for the conversation today, Ashley and Mel. Appreciate it. Um,
Yes, thank you guys
next,
so much. It's been a great week.
yes, it has. Next podcast will be on awareness of how I treat myself. So we've talked about the way we talk to ourselves, the way we listen to ourselves, and a big one, how do I treat myself? So that will be coming out soon. Thanks for a great podcast, everybody. Thanks. We're glad you're here. Glad you joined us. Check us out at workityouareworthit.com, podcast, social media, um, YouTube. We have a good YouTube page. So yeah,
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. It's been a wonderful week.
Thank you.
thanks. Have a good
Talk
week.
soon.
All right,
Bye.
Bye.
bye. We would like to thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery. Visit the Work It website at workityouareworthit.com to submit your questions and topics for future episodes. And remember, work it because you are worth it.